Welcome to ZICA Academy YouTube channel. In this lecture, I want to provide a further work example on life cycle costing. Please keep watching. Example 2. TG, a manufacturing company, has developed a new product. This required an initial capital investment of 5 million naira. At the end of the product's life, the capital equipment is expected to have a value of 3 million naira. TG requires annual returns, ARR, of 20% on its average investment in products of this type. The new product has an expected life of 1 year before it will be replaced by a more advanced product. You are given production. The new product will be manufactured in batches of 1,000 units using a just-in-time production system. The first batch is expected to incur a direct labor cost of 100,000 naira, but a 75% learning curve is expected until the cumulative production equals 30 batches. Thereafter, each batch is expected to incur the same direct labor cost as that of the 30th batch. The expected direct material cost for the first batch is 500,000 naira. However, an experience curve is expected to apply to the first 10 batches produced. Thereafter, no further savings in material cost per batch are expected. Other production costs are expected to be 10,000 naira per batch. We have sales. Sales of the new product are expected as follows for each of the 4 stages of the product's life cycle. We have stage, we have units sold, we have selling price per unit. Introduction. At the introduction stage, we have 10,000 units sold at the selling price of 120 naira. Growth stage, we have 30,000 units at the selling price of 100 naira. Maturity stage, we have 60,000 units at the selling price of 80 naira. We have decline stage of 30,000 units at the selling price of 50 naira. Note, the learning index for a 75% learning curve is minus 0.4150 required. A. Prepare calculations to show the total direct labor cost of the product for each of the 4 stages of the product life cycle. B. Assuming there is no experience curve in relation to the product's direct material cost, prepare a statement that shows the profitability of the new product for each of the 4 stages of the product life cycle, individually and in total for the product life. Solution. The first requirement, you were told, prepare calculations to show the total direct labor cost of the product for each of the 4 stages of the product life cycle. You want to show the total direct labor cost. So if you look at the information provided in the question, you know that the learning curve will be applied to labor. Remember, I've told you, if you have watched my earlier presentation on learning curve, I've told you that it is only labor that we used to apply learning to. So we want to apply learning curve to labor. The first stage of the product life is introduction stage. Introduction. You know, the learning curve formula is given as y equal to ax raised to power b, where a is the cost or time of producing the unit in the first batch, x is the cumulative output over number of units in the first batch, b is logarithm of learning rate over logarithm of 2. A equals to cost or time of producing the unit in the first batch. Then X is cumulative output divided by number of units in the first batch. Then B is logarithm of learning rate over log 2. And the Y equals to time or average time of defined cumulative output. That is time per unit of the cumulative output. Now, we want to calculate the direct labor cost incurred at the introduction stage. Now, go back to the question. The introduction stage, the new product will be manufactured in batches of 1,000 units. It will be manufactured in batches of 1,000 units using a just-in-time production system. The first batch is expected to incur direct labor cost of 100,000. That is the value of A. The value of A is 100,000. So, if A is 100,000, you were told the first batches is expected to incur a direct labor cost of 100,000. I've told you that this A is the cost. Let me say labor cost. Labor cost or time of producing the units in the first batch. So since the cost of producing the units in the first batch is 100,000, so that means the value of A is 100,000. So back to the question. But a 75% learning curve is expected until the cumulative production equals to 30 batches. So meaning that you were told a learning process will continue until the cumulative output is at 30 batches. Remember, a batch is 1,000. 1,000 times 30. Then that means you'll be having 30,000. The learning process will continue until the cumulative output is 30,000. That is 30th batches or batch. 30th batches. Thereafter, each batch is expected to incur the same direct labor cost. So meaning that when the cumulative output reaches 30 batches, the learning process will stop. So the cost of each successive production will remain stable. So that means the cost will not be expected to fall as each output increases. The cost will not fall again as the output increases. No, the assumption behind the learning is that as the production doubled or output is doubled, then the cost of each successive production will decrease. So meaning that when the cumulative output reaches 30th batch or batches, then the learning process will stop and the cost will remain stable thereafter. So that is what this clause means. The first batch is expected to incur a direct labor cost of 100,000, but a 75% learning curve is expected until the cumulative production equals 30 batch. So thereafter, each batch is expected to incur the same direct labor cost as that of the 30th batch. That means the cost incurred at the 30th batch is what will be incurred at each successive production. Each successive output, the cost will remain as the amount incurred on the 30th batch. Please take note of that. Now, if A is 100,000, Then you were told other production costs are expected to be 10,000 per batch. You were given 6. At the introduction stage, the output at that level is 10,000 units. That is the units sold. Then that means X will be, remember I've told you that X is the cumulative output, which is 10,000 units. Note the number of units sold at the introduction stage is 10,000 over number of units in the first batch. You were told the new product will be manufactured in batches of 1,000 units. So the units, since it will be in batches of 1,000, that means to achieve 10,000 units of output, then you'll be left with 10. Then that means you'll be having 10 batches. 10 batches. Now, let's substitute into the formula. I've told you that y equal to ax raised to power b. So, which is y equal to a, which is 100,000 naira. 100,000 naira times x, which is 10 batches, over log of learning rates over log 2. But in this question, you were given the learning index. Note, the learning index for a 75% learning curve is minus 0.4150. This learning index will be used in place of b. If it is not given, you apply log 0.75 over log 2. It will give you the value. So in that case, we have minus 0.4150. So then let's evaluate that. 10 raised to power minus 0.4150. In some calculator, to press exponential function, this type of calculator, the key that contains this symbol, they press that key. In some calculator, it is written this way. So you depress the key that contains this for exponential function. That means you press 10, you depress that key, then you depress minus 0.4150. Or you depress 10, this key, and this. So equals to, it will give you the value. So this gives us 100,000 times, you have 0.3846. Now multiply by 100,000. Therefore, y equals to, that's 100,000. So you have 38,000. 38,459. 38,459. That is the value of y. That means to achieve a unit, that is to produce 1 unit of this 10,000. I mean to produce 1 batch rather. Then let me call it average time of defined cumulative output. Or let me say average time per batch. Per batch, since I'm working on batches basis. Average time per batch of defined cumulative output. Now, cumulative output is 10,000. Time per batch is what was obtained. That is to achieve a unit, to achieve a batch. Remember, a batch is in 1,000. It's into 1,000. To produce 1,000, then you will incur direct labor cost of 38,459. And your requirement is to prepare calculation to show the total direct labor cost of the product for each of the 4 stages. Therefore, at the introduction stage now, total direct labor cost. Remember, I've told you this is per batch, which is a batch of 1,000. You were told a batch is 1,000 units. So now to achieve 10,000, we have 10 batches. Therefore, to get the total cost now, you have that 10 batches times 38,459. So you have 384,590. That is the total direct labor cost of incurred at the introduction stage. Then the second stage, after introduction stage, the second stage is the growth stage. Growth. growth stage. Growth stage. Remember, you were told that if you look at the cumulative output here now, up to the growth stage, you have 10,000 plus 30,000. That will be 40,000 units. And you were told from the question that the learning curve will stop when the cumulative output reaches 30 batches. So if you have 40,000 units as the cumulative output, and number of units in the first batch is one, number of units per batch is 1,000. Therefore, 40,000 divided by 1,000 will give you 40 batches, which have exceeded the 30 batches they were talking about here. So, since the learning will stop at the 30th batch, you will need to determine the cost that will be incurred in the production of that 30th batch. So, to determine the cost that will be incurred in the production of the 30th batch, you will need to determine the cost of the first 30th batch, minus the cost of the first 29th. This is the first cost of the first 30th batches, minus the cost of the first 29th batches. If you find the difference between the two, it will give you the cost of the 30th batch alone. This first 30th batches is from 1 to 30. First 29 batches is from 1 to 29. The 30th batch alone is the number 30 on it. The reason for this is because the learning will stop at the 30th batches. And this is that 30th batch we need. So, let's determine the average cost of the 30th batch. So, you have the formula remain y equal to a x to power b. Our a remain 100,000, which is the cost of the first batch. 100,000 times f, which is 30th batch we are considering, raised to power minus 0.4150. That gives us 30 raised to power minus 0.4150. That gives us 0.2438. If you multiply by 100,000, then we have 24,378. This is the cost of the first 30th batches. That is from 1 to 30. Then total cost, this is in batches. Total cost now. This is the average cost. I've told you why is average, cost per unit, or cost per batch. If you look at the definition of what I've given you, I say average time per batch. It could be average cost or time per batch. It could be in cost. The reason is that if the value of A is in naira, they are all in value. Then that means you are calculating average cost. But if the value of A is in hours, you are calculating average time. So it depends on the information provided in the question. So total cost of the first 30th batch, if this is average, so for 30, total now will be times 30 times 24,378. That gives us 731,334. Then you also need the cost for the first 29th batch. So which will be y equal to 100,000 times This will be 29. You need these two because the learning will stop at the 30th batch. Minus 0.4150. For better understanding, you can watch my earlier video on learning curve. So 29 exponential minus 4 point times 100,000. Then we have 24,723. 24,723. Remember, this is average cost per batch. So total cost now. Total cost of first 29th batches. That will be 29 times 24,723. That gives us times 29. 16,973. 716,973. If this is the cost of the first 30th batches, and this is the cost of the first 29th batches. If you now find the difference between the two, 731,334 minus 716,973. So you have 14,361. 361. This is the cost of the 30th. I didn't say first 30. I put 30th now. Batch. I didn't say batches now. This is 30th batch alone, not the first 30th batches. Take note. Now, at the 30th batch, you were told the learning will stop, and each subsequent cost will remain as the cost of the 30th batch. If learning will stop when the cumulative output reaches 30,000, that is at the 30th batch, then remember you want to determine the cost of this 30,000. At this 10,000, you have not, the learning is still in progress. Then the first 20,000 from this 30,000 will need to be added to 10,000 to make the cumulative output to be 30,000. So that if you have 30,000 divided by 10,000, then you will have 30, which is the 30th batch required. That is at the point where learning will stop. Meaning that in the first 20,000 here, learning will still be in progress. So total cost of the total cost of first 30th batches, you have that to be, to go back to the question and the solution. Total cost of the first 30th batches, that is 731,334. 731,334. Then let's remove the cost of the first 10,000, which is 10 batches. 10,000 divided by 1,000 give us 10 batches. The 1,000 is given in the question, the first batch. You were told the batch is in 1,000 units. You were told in the question. This is that 1,000 we normally use to divide it. So, total cost of the first 10 batches. That is, this first 10,000. The 10,000 will be into 10 batches. 10,000 divided by 1,000 will give us 10 batches. So the total cost of the 10 batches as determined. Total cost of total direct labor cost of the 10 batches is 384,590. 384,590. If you remove that from this, so you have 731,334 minus 384,590. So you have 346,744. No, 30 batches minus 10 batches. That is 20th batches. This is the total cost of first 20th batches. How did we get the 20th batches? 20,000. 20 times 1,000. Since the batches is in 1,000. 20 times 1,000 will be 20,000. So this is what we are talking about here. This first 1,000, you will need, this first 10,000, you will need 20,000 from this 30,000. From this 30,000 to make the cumulative output to be 30,000 units. Remember, you were told learning will stop at the first 30,000 when the cumulative output reaches 30,000 batches. That means 20,000 we need, learning will still be in progress in the first 20,000 of this 30,000. So that if you have 20,000 plus 10,000, it will not be the 30,000 required. But the cumulative output here is 40,000. 10,000 plus 30,000 is 40,000. That means at the later 10,000 units, learning has stopped. Learning is no longer in progress. So the 10,000, so total cost of the latest 10th batches, the latest one, that is additional 10,000 here, to make this 40,000. No, after removing the first batches of 30,000, where learning will stop. Then you will still be left with 10,000 to make this 40,000. So if learning will stop at 30,000, which is 30th batches, then the subsequent production of 10,000 units to make this 40,000, learning is no longer in progress. And you were told the cost will remain at the cost of the 30th batch, which has been determined here, 14,361. So we have 10. That is the remaining 10,000, 10 batches. 10 batches times 14,361. That will give us 143,610. If you add it, 4, 5, 13, 10, 9, 4. This is the total cost of 30,000 units. 30,000 units at the growth stage. 30,000 units produced at the growth stage. The total cost is 490,351. After growth stage, we have maturity stage. 60,000 units were produced. Remember, learning has stopped at the first 30,000 units, which is 30th batch. So meaning that there is no learning at the maturity stage. So maturity stage, which is the third stage, maturity stage. Total direct labor cost will now be, the 60,000 is what was produced divided by 1,000, since a batch is 1,000, times, and you were told the cost after the first 30th batch will remain steady, 14,361. 14,361. So, which is 60, this will be 60th batch. 60 times 14,361. That will be 861,660. After maturity stage, the stage number 4 is decline stage. Decline stage. Total direct labor cost incurred at this stage. Note at the decline stage, 30,000 units were produced. That means this will be in batches of 30. 30,000 divided by 1,000, that will be 30 batches. 30 batches times 14,361. That is from our initial calculation, earlier calculation, 14,361. Rounding off error is acceptable. So 30 times 14,361. That gives us 430,830. 430,830. That is the solution to the A part of the question. B, assuming there is no experience curve in relation to the product's direct material cost, you have to prepare a statement that shows the profitability of the named product for each of the 4 stages of the product life cycle, individually and in total for the product life. Now, you want to prepare the profitability statement. So now, the name of the entity remains GT. So we have profit statement showing the profitability of the company. So there are 4 stages. We have decline stage, we have the maturity stage, the first stage is introduction. The second stage is growth stage. The third stage is maturity. And the fourth stage is decline stage. There is no time to include total, no space rather, to include total. So we have the number of units at each of the stages, number of units. At the introduction stage, we have 10,000 units. At the growth stage, we have 30,000 units. At the maturity stage, we have 60,000 units. And at the decline stage, we have 30,000 units. The selling price in each of the stages is given, selling price. So we have 120, 100, 80, and 50. 120 naira, 100 naira, 80 naira, and 50 naira. So what would not be the total revenue? The total revenue, which will be number of units times the selling price. 10,000 units times 120, that gives us 1.2 million naira. 1.2 million. This will be 3 million naira. 60,000 times 80. That gives us 4.8 million. Then 30,000 times 50. That gives us 1.5 million. So from this, we deduct the cost. And the cost include direct labor. This is for 10,000, the first stage. This is for the first stage, 384,590. I want to rub it off. This is direct labor cost incurred. At the second stage, stage number 2. So we have, this is total direct labor cost. Labor cost of 30,000 at the growth stage. 490,354. 490,354. Then the third stage, maturity stage, we have 861, 660. 861, 660. Then the fourth stage, we have 430,830. 430,830. Then remember, you were told, assuming there is no experience curve in relation to the product direct material cost. The expected direct material cost for the first batch is 50,000 naira. Please have this corrected. It's 50,000 naira, not 500,000. So if the first batch, the first batch, a batch is 1,000. So if that is 50,000 naira, then the total direct material cost, for the member, if the first batch is 50,000, the introduction stage, 10,000 units were produced. And you were told a batch is 1,000. That means these 10,000 units produced at the introduction stage, 10K divided by 1K, that will be 10,000. That will be 10 batches. 10,000 divided by 1,000. That is 10 batches times 50,000, which was given at the cost of direct material. That means you'll be having 500,000. Then for growth stage, you have 30,000. 30,000 divided by 1,000 will also be 30 batches. 30 batches times 500,000, and times 50,000 rather. 30 times 50,000. That will be 1.5 million. Remember, this 30 is 30,000 divided by 1,000. Please take note of that. Then for maturity stage, 60,000 divided by 1,000. That will be 60,000 divided by 1,000. That will be 60 batches. 60 times 50,000. This will be 3 million. 3 million at the maturity stage. Then decline stage. So 30,000 divided by 1,000, that will be 30. 30 batches times 50,000. Remember, you were told there is no learning in this part of the question. That will be 1.5 million. Now, you were told that other production costs are expected to be 10,000 per batch. Other production costs. other production cost. If it is 10,000 per batch, at the introduction stage, you have 10 batches. 10 times 10,000, that will be 100,000. Then at the growth stage, 30 batches times 10,000, that will be 300,000. Then at the maturity stage, 60 batches times 10,000, that will be 600,000. Finally, at the decline stage, we have 30 batches times 10,000, that will be 300,000. So let's subtract. 1.2 million minus 384,590 minus 500,000 minus 100,000. That is, you'll be left with a profit of 215,410. That is net profit, or loss in bracket if you have loss. Then for growth stage, 3 million minus 490,354 minus 1.5 million minus 300,000. Then you'll be left with 709,646. For maturity stage, 4.8 million minus 861,660 minus 3 million minus 600,000. Then you'll be left with 340. Then for decline stage, 1.5 million minus 430,830 minus 1.5 million minus, minus 300,000. Then loss of 730,830. How much is now the total profit? Add all this profit and subtract the loss. 215,410 plus 709,646 plus 338,340. So minus 730,830. Total profit will be 532,566. This is the end of the solution to the question. Please drop the love emoji. Share the video with others. Also like it. Thanks for watching ZICA.